And now, the Sons of Liberty show on the CB Media Network.
Due to the graphic nature of this program, listener discretion is advised.
We've been fighting a long time, and we have all lost so very much, so many loved ones gone. But you are not alone. There are pockets of resistance all around the planet. We are at the brink.
Live from Central Virginia, it's Saturday night!
Now we find ourselves facing a tyranny that has been infused with new blood, and it is rapidly becoming an engorged, hard tyranny. And yes, I know you better-minded listeners picked up on that not-so-subtle metaphor. I used it on purpose because a hard tyranny serves one purpose and one purpose only, to screw its subjects. No force, no attitude, no emotion, no nation, no person can hold any modicum of power, much less utter dominion over a sovereign individual, except through the sanction that is given by that individual.
But for me, leading a worldwide depression.
In doing so, we will honor the vows of our founders, who in the Declaration of Independence said that we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This legislation will lead to healthier lives, more liberty to pursue hope and dreams and happiness.
Federal government, yes, can and do most anything in this country.
Just who the hell do you think you people are?
There's your dichotomy, folks. Do you want to be treated like children, or do you want to be treated like adults with brains of your own who can make your own decisions? That's the bottom line between new progressivism, which is really old communism, or conservatism, which is what started this great nation. Which hand are you going to choose?
If you're listening to this, you are the resistance.
Good evening, everyone. Your Iron Man of classical liberal thought, Bradley Reese, here on the Sons of Liberty show, and a first for conservative broadcast media here on Spreaker since we moved over from Blog Talk Radio. Finally able to get a guest on the show. We haven't figured out the call-in deal quite yet with Spreaker, but I pre-recorded this interview Wednesday night with musician Mark Scudder. Those of you familiar with the Sons of Liberty show know that I have interviewed authors, filmmakers, and musicians on the show before. And it's a great thrill to have Mark Scudder on the show tonight talking about his music, what he's doing to change the culture, and we've got some of his music embedded in the show tonight, so you get to listen to that as well. So a good treat for you lined up here on the Sons of Liberty show. Without further ado, let's get into it.
We are joined here on the Sons of Liberty show by Mark Scudder, I guess I can't really call you a guitarist because you're doing the whole shebang. You're like a one-man band.
Multi-instrumentalist is what they usually call other people who do that. So
there we go. Yeah, musically multi-dexterous. How about that?
Okay.
Anyway, Mark Scudder is an interesting musician because he's kind of, grassroots, I guess, which resonates with his audience. Tea Party conservatives, etc. And you know, the interesting thing is Mark has recorded one album actually online, doing the writing and production of music over live stream, and people can sit in on the sessions and, you know, and watch and interact as it's happening. So it's basically a conference call jam session kind of deal with video, and Mark is actually in the process of recording a second album in much the same manner. And the cool thing is, now I can't remember if you were doing multiple angles on the first album with the cameras, but I know you are now. And
on some of it, I had other cameras going, but not all of it. When I finally started doing vocals, which I left for last on the last record, it just, I mean, I'm not a terribly good singer, and it takes a lot of takes to get what I want, and so I just said the hell with it, and I put up just a live stream camera. But a lot of the instrument sessions, the guitar and bass and keys and stuff like that, I did do multiple cameras.
Cool. So that's and this was I was thinking about this earlier, and I didn't want. I was thinking about not bringing it up, but I'm going to anyway, just because, you know, I know kind of from watching your sessions and interacting, kind of your sense of humor. You know, this is the way that Justin Bieber started out. and you know, you're in upstate New York, which is kind of close to Canada, so anyway.
First off, there are many talented musicians in Canada. We don't want to just kick Canada in the gut here by just saying Justin Bieber. I really don't know how Justin Bieber started out. I heard that he was posting performances of his songs to YouTube, and Usher found him and then did all the production for him. So maybe it's not completely fair to say that, because what I'm literally doing is you sit down and I'm sitting in my home studio, and I'll sit down and say, okay, well, I have this idea that's like half done from whenever ago, and I kind of want to see if we can flesh it out and make it into something. And then I sit down and I start doing all the parts. So there's no Usher, there's no expensive studio in Los Angeles. There's no producer. There's not a guy in the other room making beats. It really is all sort of a one-man operation.
Yeah, so it's basically Justin Bieber in that you're putting it on the internet yourself, and mixed in with a sort of Trent Reznor 9 Inch Nails kind of thing, where you're all of the music and the vocals and the lyrics is coming out of your head. You know?
He had an incredible DIY production ethic, early on, and I look at people like Devin Townsend now, who does it all by himself a lot of the time, and in his home. But Trent Reznor really was a pioneer in that way. And besides his politics, I've always sort of counted him as an influence, though I don't think my stuff sounds anything like that. But just the fact that he got down there and he did everything and he didn't take no for an answer is inspiring from a musical standpoint.
Right. Yeah, and I've always looked at Trent Reznor the same way, is that just having the wherewithal to say, well, I don't have a band to do all of the things that I want to do. I want my creativity to come out in a way that truly represents me and what I want to do with it. And you don't always have that dynamic in a band situation. So the DIY sort of effort is, it's a great way for you to get that creativity out and have it exactly how you want it. Because I know from being in bands in the past and, not going anywhere with them, but
But I know just from being in bands, the creative process is, you have an idea in your head going into the process and running it through 4 or 5 different sets of, brains and hands and instruments.
Yeah.
It always ends up coming out different on the other end. So
there's a good and a bad side to that. I mean, it can go either way. And what I was thinking when you were talking about Trent Reznor is it used to be back when he got popular in the late 80s, early 90s, people, if you have all these ideas and no way to get them out to people, people used to say to you, well, why don't you join a band? And at least they used to say that. Now they say, well, why don't you go on American Idol? And it's like people don't understand that, on American Idol, first off, they're looking for somebody thinner than me, for one thing. And they're sort of looking for a figurehead that some guy who does look like me, who works in a big building in Los Angeles and New York City, who writes teeny bopper songs, except he's 48 and divorced. Right. They need to put a face on those teeny bopper songs, and that's what they're looking for. Occasionally they'll let one of these girls write a couple of songs, but essentially it's a game show to produce some buzz around somebody that they're eventually going to give material to. And a lot of and I understand that not everybody goes around with full albums playing in their heads, or the idea that you want to go someplace different with something. So I'm always looking for people, like you, who can help explain that to people, because I know that we're sort of going into uncharted territory here with a lot of people.
Right, exactly, and that's the thing, there are so many people that aren't musically inclined or haven't discovered yet that they're musically inclined. They may like music, but not really have any idea that they can make music. I've had Jared Radnich on the show a couple of times. He's a phenomenal pianist out in California, and he's involved in a lot of projects to bring music to people. He's got a community theater where they just bring people in from the community, just average people, and hand them an instrument and teach them how to play. Okay. And it's really amazing because music is really therapeutic as well.
Oh, yeah. I mean, a lot of people don't have no idea of just from everything, the mental, emotional, physiological power that music could have, and just listening to it or playing it. I mean, music is. I listen to music when I'm sleeping. I listen to music in the morning. I listen to music when I'm working. I listen to music when I'm in the car. I'm never without something that is sort of helping to push my mood into a certain place.
Right, and that's one of the things I've talked with Jared about, is that music actually mimics human speech as well. So which is why we talked about this, that every commercial that you see on TV will have a musical score behind it.
Right.
Why? Because the music sets it sets a mood, it sets an energy level. It can convey all of these things that maybe the spoken word can't if you don't choose the precise spoken word. So.
Right. Yeah, well, like a lot of people who would listen to this last album, or whatever, what I'm doing now, might not know, but like there are some times when I have to really, when I really have to calm down and relax, and there are actually a couple of things I listen to you wouldn't even think, like there's a guy in Los Angeles now named Chuck Wilde. He used to be in Missing Persons, the new wave band Missing Persons, but now he does this almost sort of mathematically concocted synth new agey, like relaxing sort of music that just sort of flows and washes over you. It's such a slow tempo that you're not even paying attention to what's going on. It's just sort of relaxing you. And then there's a guy out of Arizona, I think, named John Seri, who does the same sort of stuff. He's done music for planetariums. And I actually listen to a lot of stuff, for the purpose of helping to lower the energy level at the end of the day or whatever, that you wouldn't even think of. So my tastes are, are all over the spectrum.
Yeah, and it's interesting that, we've talked about Trent Reznor and Devin Townsend, who are kind of, are a little bit more heavy as far as the music is concerned. And Trent Reznor is more, electronica, industrial. Devin Townsend is really all over the map when you explore his whole catalog. But, and I mean, I familiarized myself with Devin Townsend from Strapping Young Lad, which is definitely heavy. So that was my first experience with him. Actually, seen them in concert a couple of times and was just blown away. But and to hear some of the other stuff that he's done is like, is that the same guy?
Yeah. Well, I mean, he put out this album called Ghost a year and a half ago. And he's got Kat Eppel on it, who was in a New Age duo when we were kids called Emerald Webb. And I think she's American, but it was just one of these things that it was one of those weird New Agey sort of things that he listened to when he was a kid. And when he was ready to do some of that music, he called her up and he said, I want you to play on this album. And she said, sure. And I think that's such a great story to be able to go back to somebody who one of your formative influences. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, now we've talked about other people and kind of the genesis of this thing, and I guess we should get into specifically your music, the album that is already out, and it's available on iTunes, by the way, or on Mark's website. And I should go ahead and give that out for the listeners while I'm thinking about it. MarkScudder.com. It's MarkScudder.com, and you can find the album there. It's called "The Solution Is the Problem," and you can also find it on iTunes, as I said. And I think it's digital download in both places.
Yeah, I did if anybody absolutely needs a physical CD, they can let me know. They just have to be ordered, and it's a pain. And I have to order them in small batches because I'm not Justin Bieber, right? So the digital download is a lot easier if you can handle it. It's on iTunes, it's on Amazon, it's on a bunch of places. I usually say wherever digital music is sold. But
that's the thing too. I don't know too many people anymore that actually carry around CDs.
Well, because sometimes
everybody has
playing Sometimes if I'm playing a physical, if I'm playing a venue, I like to go in with CDs because CDs are still great impulse buys. If I had $1 for every time somebody said, "Yeah, man, as soon as I get home, I'll download your stuff," I wouldn't be selling music because everybody says that and nobody ever does.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's the thing is that now, in 2013 now, the cell phone is ubiquitous, and even your standard run-of-the-mill flip phone has MP3 capabilities. So, so it's easy to download and transfer it over to a micro SD card and stick it in your phone, and if nothing else. Now personally, I like CDs just for the tactile sensation and the liner notes and all of that. But the cool thing is with the solution is the problem. You're not just getting the digital download. You can also get the PDF with the liner notes. So you've got the artwork, you've got the lyrics, the whole 9 yards right there. So basically everything that you would have with a physical CD without having to, go through the ordeal of unwrapping the damn thing, and then,
And I could just put some MP3s up on a free web host someplace and call it a day. But that comes from my love of liner notes, and you as well probably grew up with records, and I still have a bunch of records, and nobody has really duplicated that feeling of like a gatefold 12-inch album with the booklet and all the photos and the sleeve and everything, and so I at least try and go back to the CD booklet paradigm. But I'll tell you, a lot of these digital stores, they'll accept your music, but they won't accept a booklet, and iTunes specifically, for some reason, will not accept PDF booklets that are shaped, that have the same dimensions as a CD booklet. So you have to design something completely different from them in a completely different shape, more like a widescreen movie image. And it got to the point where it's like, okay, I'm not going to bother with this. So the PDF really only comes with the versions that are on my store. If you go to markscudder.com and then you click on store in the menu, it only comes with those versions that are on there, and it's because I can control what goes into my own store, but I don't control what goes onto iTunes or Amazon.
So for anybody that's like me, that downloads the music digitally because it's easy, you can spread it across devices and have it with you wherever, but you also like to have the liner notes. The PDF is there and available if you go somewhere other than Mark's store and they don't have the PDF and you really, really want it, Mark can get it to you.
For a fee.
Yeah, there you go.
I would much rather. It's just, and this is a little inside baseball, and I don't mention it. I wouldn't mention it if sales weren't so slow. But if you buy it from my store, I get the money immediately, and then can turn it back into making more music. The big boys report to my distributor about every 3 months. So if you go and like I said, sales are low, and we'll get into why, I'm sure, as the evening goes on. Not for lack of quality, I assure you, but But if somebody messages me and says, "Oh, I bought your album on iTunes," be like, "Okay, great. I will make myself a note for late April." And to go find that $10 or whatever it is, or $7 or whatever I get, and try and make some use of it. So, if all else fails, buy it anywhere. But for God's sakes, just get it somewhere.
Yeah. Well, and for that reason alone, as far as I'm concerned, with wanting to have the liner notes and because the artwork in the PDF, to me, is really adds something to the album. Some of the artwork in there is very provocative and kind of makes you think. So that's there. So just from my perspective, I would prefer buying it from your store, so you have that PDF, and plus, again, you get the music immediately in case in your next live stream recording session, you God forbid, break a string or something. The money is right there. You can go out and buy another pack. But
that's better. I don't want to have to wait. Live streams are canceled for 3 months because they can't afford guitar strings. Yeah.
but anyway, it's speaking of the live stream recording sessions, while we're at it, that's also at markscudder.com/live. And right now you're doing every Thursday night, 8 to 11 p.m. Eastern. And I've been a slacker. I got in there live last week, and I've watched 3 or 4 after the fact because I just couldn't get in there on Thursday night. But I've got to say, watching it after the fact versus being there, experiencing it live, and being able to type in the chat room, 2 completely different worlds. It's much more fun actually being there live on Thursday
have the capability to sort of display what happened in the chat then, like in the video. And maybe if I could, it'd be a little better. But I think people would also just kind of be sitting there going, well, man, you know, I want to get in on this. Why can't I type?
Right. Yeah, because if you see that little chat board moving, you assume that
you want to get in on it.
It's live, and yes, you can jump in. But no, it's Thursday nights, 8 to 11 Eastern, and sometimes a little bit longer. But you know, the cool thing is it's a really good experience because there's other people in the chat room. Granted, you know, it's 3 hours out of your day on a Thursday evening. You know, so most of the people that join in, you know, are there for a little while and they pop out, you know, eat some dinner depending on what part of the country they're in and come back later, that kind of thing. But all in all, it's kind of a rotating crowd and great conversations going on, and a lot of laughs last week for sure.
Yeah, well, you know, it's you can't take yourself too seriously. I mean, what we're doing, I mean, just from making music to doing a DIY a community of Americans who are concerned about where this country is going and where it has gone, and all that stuff. I mean, it can be really heavy, you know, talking about Obama and Benghazi and the fiscal cliff and the debt ceiling and we're all going to die and all this stuff. You know, it's all very heavy, but I think there's already too much focus on that. Like I watch my Twitter go by, like when I'm on the computer, I have it over on the side, and I watch it go by, and it's just everybody's just being so negative, and oh my God, I can't believe this, and Obama is this, and Obama is that, and I get that all those feelings are there, and all those feelings are real, and I agree with most of them, but there's a point where I've got to say, you know, for my own mental health, okay, and I got enough problems as it is. You know, for my own mental health, I got to say that we have got to have some fun. We have got to get together as people, not necessarily, you know, what's, you know, the pickup line for me is not what's your least favorite Obama quote. You know, I think we all know that we're there, but you know, we've got to do something that brings us, you know, just a little laughter. We spend 18 hours of every day or more in the negative headspace, and you know, and because of the things that are going on in the world, what I'm doing is not the most important thing ever, and I'm also sort of amused by the fact that any of the stuff that I'm doing works in the first place. And I'm not saying that because I'm doubtful of myself, but, you know, I am human, and there's about 4 or 5 computers that make all this happen, and computers do what computers do, you know, and just the fact that all of it works is just highly amusing. And, you know, when you break a string or something, or you hit a really, like an awesomely wrong note, you know, it just feels better as far as I'm concerned. It just, you know, it just makes me laugh, because you know, we're doing it. You know, this is John Galt music. You know, this is sort of a John Galt recording studio. It's like, you know, nobody's going to tell us what we can or can't do. We're just gonna flip all the switches, and we're gonna do everything we can, and sort of no interference from labels or advertisers or anybody who says we can't do it. And so it just sort of becomes, you know, and then of course recording is, okay, well I've got to figure out this little part, right? And you can't believe that it's taking like, you know, 10 or 15 times through it to try and get it, and then when you finally do, you're like, yes. You know, so it's very, very emotionally. Music is an emotionally charged thing for me. So yeah, a lot of laughter, and I also I want to, you know, remind, you know, because I know that I'm in this niche market right now of conservatives who care about regaining the culture, and I know that there's enough negativity out there. I can point you to 100 places where if you want to be more depressed about things, and I'm not saying that I'm in denial, but there has to be a part of this whole movement or community or whatever you call it, that gives you some happiness, that gives you some joy. So,
right, exactly.
On the side of joy,
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's one of the things I noticed. The song you were working on last week in the recording session. There's a lot of uplifting tones in there, and and I find myself anticipating and not wanting to wait to hear what kind of lyrics are going to go with that, because it just because the song.
And you're also coming from a music background too, and I think people like you have a special connection to what I'm doing, because we're kind of just geeking out with the sort of the inside baseball sort of music knowledge that we have. And part of the reason why I started doing this in the first place is because there was nobody left around here, or where I am in upstate New York, the People's Republic of upstate New York, I might add, to work with. There's nobody to work with. I mean, I have one friend who is musically inclined and conservative locally, and he's got a big family, and he works all the time, and that's what he needs or wants or both, to concentrate on. And so I see him once in a while, and it's always fun if I can get him down here for a session or whatever. But everybody else, I mean, any other conservatives that are into music, they're into blues rock or classic rock or southern rock, and I don't do any of that stuff at all. And they kind of don't get what I'm doing. They're playing 7 chords everywhere, and it's like, no, this isn't Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young or whatever. This isn't this isn't Leonard Skinner. Come on, let's it's 2013. And of course, the rest of the musicians around here are so far left that they don't want anything to do with me, So this whole thing sort of started as, okay, I don't like working alone. Working alone is boring. I don't have the stamina for it. I don't have the motivation for it. I would rather break it up a little and have somebody to laugh with for, the little dumb mistakes that you make, or the little things that trip you up, or I want somebody to celebrate with when in 3 hours we can go from nothing to this incredibly huge arrangement. I want somebody, you can't high-five people through the internet, but it's better than not having them there. And I like working with people. I like collaborating. There were a couple of things on the last record that exist solely because somebody said something in a chat room, and we went off on a tangent, and it was awesome. And so I love that sort of stuff, and so that's sort of where all of this came from.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing about the live recording sessions, being in the chat room, and and being able to hear it come together from one track with acoustic guitar to the electric guitar coming in and the drums, and and being able to hear it all come together and then comment on it, in live action, and because it is almost a collaborative process. You feel like you're part of making the album, and that's a special thing. And I tell you what, we're gonna talk about that a little bit on the other side of the break, because I want to get into the name of the last album, the meaning behind it, the new album, and maybe a little bit about what we kind of touched on briefly with the sales being a little bit slow right now. I definitely want to hit on that because I talk to the listeners here a lot about things that go on Twitter and social networks, and the name of the album that is being recorded right now is The Antisocial Network, and we'll get into the reasons for that on the other side of the break. You're listening to the Sons of Liberty Show with your host, the Iron Man of Classical Liberal Thought, Bradley Reese, and I'm talking with Mark Scudder, a talented musician, and we're going to get a little bit of a teaser of one of the songs from The Solution is the Problem, going out into the break and coming back in on the other side. So stay tuned and listen close. This is Mark Scudder.
The song is called Follow Me, or The Hypocrite Song.
Live a life that made me proud. Took me farther from the crowd. Punished for my honesty, for my love of my country. These things I think are not allowed. She lives a life of vanity. She talks in sound bites from TV. She's kind and reverent, enlightened and so tolerant. Should kill you if you disagree. But she said, open your heart and love my bigotry. Open your mind and think exactly like me. Don't you know the only way you'll be free is if you follow me?
And my daddy is right. Back after these messages on the CB Media Network.
What's happened to America being the best of the best, with a unique character among nations, so-called American exceptionalism? The GOP has recently jumped on this as their battle cry of choice, claiming President Obama's own words prove he doesn't get it.
I believe in American exceptionalism, just as I suspect that the Brits believe in British exceptionalism and the Greeks believe in Greek exceptionalism.
President Obama's explanation of American exceptionalism truly alarming. President Obama did not understand the question and did not have any idea what American exceptionalism is.
2012 hopefuls and conservative critics sounding the alarm about the need to keep America on top.
The United States of America is simply the single greatest nation in all of human history.
The job of the American president is not to manage American decline. The job of the American president is to reverse it.
Open your mind and think exactly like me. Don't you know the only way you'll be free is if you follow me? Is if you follow me? Is if you follow me?
You're listening to the Sons of Liberty show on the CB Media Network.
Like a box of chocolate. You never know what you're going to get.
phenomenal piece of music there from Mark Scudder. And you're listening to the Sons of Liberty show here on Conservative Broadcast Media. And we are back with Mark Scudder, the man himself. And as we were talking about before the break, we're going to get into a little bit about the theory and the reasoning behind the names of the albums and what they represent, the ideas that go into the songs themselves, and the overall theme of the album. The first album was The Solution is the Problem, and it's available on iTunes, markscudder.com, and click on the store link there, and you can pick up the album for the low price of...
well, it's $9.99 most places.
Okay.
On my site, on my store, there's actually a deluxe edition for $14.99, and it actually comes with an album-length commentary, which if you sort of want to hear specific stories about how the whole thing came about, sort of like in real time as we listen to the album together, that's on there at the end of the album. And then after that, there are demos or live performance of every song that's on the record. And I did that because a lot of these songs are a little older. They've had quite a history with me. One or two of them were written in 2003, for instance, and just never got the treatment that they deserved. And so you'll be able to hear sort of the origins of that for a measly $5 more. So you can't go wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. That's like 3 albums for the price of one right there. And I guarantee you, if you were to go pick up the actual physical CD in a store that happens to be in one of those places that we call malls, you would pay $17, $18.99 easily for the CD.
And I might get 8 cents out of it with a
right.
national distributor.
Well, all that cellophane and that little strip that's supposed to make it easy to open costs a lot of money.
Even when I get physicals, I never order that strip. I was like, do you want the strip? It's like, yeah, do I want people to see my name in black and white so they know who to curse when they're trying to rip that thing up? No. I mean, I get them poly-wrapped. I mean, that's one thing, because people like to get a wrap. They you haven't been in it, It's like our parents used to say about the apple with the razor blade in it at Halloween. You poly-wrap, but that's about it, and I don't do the strip or anything.
or that sticker. Anyway. Oh, man. Okay, so the solution is the problem. Where did the phrase come from? The significance to you? There's a song on the album with the same name,
yep.
And actually the phrase is in the lyrics of another song as well. So,
yep.
So give us a little bit of inside scoop on that.
I started writing the title track quite a few years ago, but it never got finished. And it's one of those things where, I had to go through a certain amount of hell in my life, as authors and writers do, for me to get the rest of it. And I wanted to call the record that because it's not a concept record, but pretty much everything on the album sort of falls into this general theme. And I like the phrase. I haven't seen it used much anyplace else, so it's nice to know that I kind of own it, instead of it being used 100 different places. But it's sort of this feeling that I have a lot of times, that you have to do the wrong things to get the right result. Like excuse me. It's looking at the world and knowing that the world is often run by evil people, and just doing the right thing isn't good enough. And sometimes, in order to find success or find enough money to pay your bills or get the house you need or take care of your kids. That sometimes it seems that you have to sort of go down a path that you wouldn't go ordinarily. And I found that I could apply this broadly to songs about relationships and songs about religion and songs about politics and songs about just anything. We see a lot of times. It's not saying if you can't beat them, join them, because that's more of like a surrender, and this is more of an observation where you're still on the you haven't crossed the line yet. You can sort of say that okay, well the solution is the problem. People ask me for examples of what I'm talking about. If you've ever felt when you were single and dating, or if you are now, that young women tend to gravitate toward guys who mistreat them. After a while, there is a cynical part of me, while not serious, goes, if I could only bring myself to be a jerk to women, I might have a better chance. And that's a great example of that sort of thinking. The solution is the problem. And I applaud it. I apply it more broadly. There's a song called "Her God" on the record about my struggles growing up Catholic, and how my parents' generation was sort of the Catholic Church was sort of telling my parents' generation in the 70s when I was born that in order for you to go to heaven, you have to kind of shoehorn your kids into this faith, and it doesn't matter what they believe or if they're into it or if they'd rather be Jewish or Lutheran or Buddhist or whatever whatever you want to say. And so you have to force them into this religion, which is not, as far as I know, is not the basis of any religion, at least any Christian religion. And it's these struggles like that you have to do the wrong thing to get the right result. And of course, there's a lot with politics and social media. One big problem that I have had is that a lot of people who are considered popular or important or noteworthy in the conservative communities, you either have to know them in real life in order to get any sort of response from them. Because let's face it, the internet is sort of a Democrat-invented thing. It's about communities and sharing and word of mouth, and we do a lot of that, but we do it very unevenly. And when somebody complains, the response is always, "Well, we're not Democrats. I don't owe you anything." But social media, a lot of these important people, it got to a point, like say right before Andrew Breitbart died, where he wasn't doing anything that I thought was engaging the culture anymore. He was simply all day long on Twitter retweeting people who called him names and who implied that he liked crystal meth and sex with guys, and just retweeting them all day long and fighting with them and whatnot. And there was a point where my Twitter timeline was just full of everybody who hated Andrew Breitbart. And it's like, why, man? We know these people are unhinged. We know these people are emotionally driven. I don't need to see this. I want to follow you. I want to hear what you have to say, what you think. I don't want to hear these jerks. And it gets to a point, and other people started picking it up, especially after he died. And everybody went, "I'm Andrew Breitbart." So, my Twitter feed for 6 months was everybody else retweeting all the leftists who hate them, So, it started to occur to me that the only way I'm ever going to get the attention of these people, which is apparently what you need to break out of social media, is to start calling them names, I've asked Michelle Malkin 100 times if I've asked her once, if she'd help get the word out about what I'm doing, because I think what I'm doing is unique and important and useful, and people would find it. But you know what? If I got on Twitter right now and I called her the C word a couple of times, I'd have 60 articles about me on Twitchy in the next 24 hours. So I think that's the heart of it. Sort of the solution is the problem. You want attention? You go slap one of these self-important quote unquote pundits and find a way to capitalize off of whatever they do in response. And that's sort of what I'm trying to put forward to people who are listening to this or people who are listening to my music is that's not good enough. We've got to do better. You want to take back the culture, you want to take back the country. We've got to do better. We've got to get ourselves out of these solution is the problem sort of situations.
Right, exactly. And I noticed the same thing, and I'm sure any of the listeners that are on Twitter have seen a lot of the same thing as well, where these quote unquote conservative pundits who are supposed to be holding up the foundational principles of this country and advocating for them and arguing for them passionately, instead are sort of setting themselves up as, hey, look at me, I'm the victim of all this vile hatred from the left, so all of their followers immediately go out and attack all of the people that they're retweeting, and it just becomes this endless cycle of victimhood. Is that exactly the solution is the problem. You're pretending that the solution is to point out all of this evil, vile rhetoric from the left when we've known that for decades.
Yeah, absolutely.
That leftists are vile. They hate conservatism. They hate anyone on the right because of the ideology, whatever it is. So we've known this forever, and here you are perpetuating it and saying, "Oh, look at this! Oh, here's a new outrage to be outraged about." And
right, and another great example of the solution being the problem is the approach we seem to have, or they seem to have, I don't have it, to conservatism in arts and culture. I mean, these people think that every song has to be called like "The Eagle Cries Liberty for America," or "On the Wings of America," or something like that. And they're not seeing what's in front of their faces is that even Madonna, even Trent Reznor, even Green Day, Springsteen, they didn't come out one day with a song about waving the Cuban flag and how Fidel Castro will save us and socialized medicine. No, they did it in very sort of subtle sociological bits and pieces. I was talking to somebody just this weekend about the Madonna song "Papa Don't Preach." I mean, somebody could go out on a limb and say that that's a pro-life song because I'm keeping my baby. No, that's not what it is. She's she's singing as like a teenage mother who was irresponsible, and she's gonna. And I'm not saying that abortion is the right thing to do, but when you put this out to normal people who aren't listening to like Blog Talk Radio all day or Limbaugh and Beck and Hannity and Levin, people who aren't in the little subculture that we're in, what that song says is that in a way it sort of justifies the irresponsible behavior that leads to teen pregnancy, that leads to having to make the decision to abort or keep the baby. And people are looking at it, and they need to look at it 2 or 3 steps behind. And so the people the musicians that are getting the and I know there's somebody out there who's going to hear this and think, "Oh, well, Scudder, you're just jealous." No, I am in desperate pain of what I see in this country, what I see works, all the things, take the next 24 or 48 hours and see how many examples of the solution is the problem you can find. You'll be throwing up in your bathroom in 6 hours, I swear to you.
Yeah.
people have to. I mean, we have to look at it as sort of getting to that 70% of America that doesn't think about politics on a day-to-day basis, and is going to be more influenced at the ballot box by a Green Day song or a Justin Bieber song or an Adele song, and some little subtle social thing in there that makes them scared that they won't have that or whatever if they elect a Republican president, for instance. And I think we're going about this all wrong. And, so the solution to a lot of people on our side is to have these sort of almost corny, over-the-top, on-the-nose, flag-waving, bald eagle, liberty, freedom, sort of songs, or parodies of popular songs, based on current events. And nobody who has ever made a culture change in modern history has done that. And
exactly.
It just makes me, it gives me migraines.
And that's the thing. The in-your-face, we'll put a boot in your ass, it's the American way, and, this ain't no rag, it's a flag, and we don't wear it on our head. Those kind of things, they appeal to this patriotism that is only found within a small subset of the conservative echo chamber, but that type of in-your-face, flag-waving, I hate to say it, but jingoistic sort of, sort of meme is not the way to convert people. Again,
it plays to our opponent's stereotypes of us.
Right, exactly. And that's the thing, the solution is the problem. I talk about this on the show, in the realm of politics all the time, is that it's not so much that, what you're saying is not that the solution, the actual solution is a problem. The prescribed solution. What they are saying is the solution is not. It's a problem. It's like the wonder drug that comes out that's going to cure your acid reflux disease, and then you start reading down the list of side effects. You're like, oh, well, if I'm going to start taking this, then I also need to pick up some Excedrin and some joint pain relief cream, and to deal with all of the side effects of this miracle drug. And then I have to get a tub of cookie dough so that I don't get indigestion from all these medicines that I'm taking. Right?
They tear up your stomach lining.
And that's the thing. I harp on this all the time on the show, is that it's not so much that we're coming up. Well, it is that we're coming up with the wrong answers, but the reason that so many people in conservatism, in the right wing, in the Republican Party, God forbid, are, the reason so many of these people are coming up with the wrong answers is because they're asking the wrong questions. I harp on this all the time on the show, is that, we somehow think that, okay, we're going to change the culture by just, sticking our Americanism and patriotism in people's faces, when you look at the example of the left and the progressives and what they've done to this country over the last 120 years, every last bit of what they have done that has drastically changed our culture, drastically moved us away from the Constitution, every last bit of it has been subtle and slow and painstaking to get us to the point that we're at.
And you even look at let's just look at mainstream political opinion for a second. Okay, so the Tea Party thing happens, all right, after Obama gets big after Obama gets elected, and you start hearing about it, right? Everybody goes to rallies in D.C. I was there on 9/12/09 with a friend of mine who lived in Alexandria. We went down, we yelled, we screamed, and made some friends, and the 2010 midterms come around. And what do they say? They say that we got a lot of wins, and it was the Tea Party, and it's a referendum on Obama. And so, okay, I get and I accept that people can think at that point that whatever we did from 2008 to 2010, if we do it again and more of it between 2010 and 2012, that we're gonna get Obama out of the White House. Well, that didn't happen. So at the very least now, but what I see is people just turning the knob up, turning it up more, and they're not seeing that it worked once and then didn't work again. They're just seeing, oh well, this worked in 2010, so maybe we just weren't loud enough. And no, that isn't it. We are. I think. You can tell that even talking about this sort of frustrates me. I'm not frustrated with you. It's because I think about this all the time, and then even when I have a chance, I can barely, without without having a panic attack, right? It just didn't work, and we have to look at why. And I think a lot of this, I think we got our asses kicked because we went looking for a fight, and we weren't prepared for it. All we had was this rhetoric and this flag waving and this boot in your ass and all this stuff. And people said, you know what, you guys seem really out of touch with all that kind of stuff. And before we even get into the discussion of federalism or returning to founding principles or anything, I mean, the first thing we've got to do is get back to center right before we go back to like founders right. People don't get it, and all this. I got into it with a guy today on Twitter whose name I'm not going to mention because, quite frankly, he doesn't deserve the attention. He's a talk radio show host who messaged me, I guess, because I followed him in a batch with some other people that I was supposed to follow. And he says, thank you for the follow, blah, 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 this is what I do. And I look at his bio and I see he's a talk show host, and I write back to him and I say, do you ever have musicians on your talk show? Because, I think I'm doing something unique and I think I have an interesting story. And he writes back and he goes, no, we just do current events. It's talk radio, not music radio. And he was kind of almost a little mean about it. And I was like, are you kidding me? And I'm trying to tell him, that the culture, I mean, all you have to do is turn on your TV and watch a sitcom or turn on the radio. And as long as you can tap your foot to it, people can convince you of just about anything.
Yep.
I mean, even the, I remember, this is dated, and this is going to make me sound ridiculous, but one thing always made me uncomfortable about that song, the Macarena, other than the fact that it was pure garbage. But there's one point where some woman who's talking in the middle of the song talks about this guy that she got with, and she's like, well, my boyfriend was out of town, and he was so hot. What could I do? Yeah. And again, this is a perfect example, because when they, I mean, that's an aside. That's a tangential thing. That's gravy to the people who wrote this song. That wasn't nobody sat down and said, the conservatives are too hard-assed on monogamy. I'm going to write a song that criticizes them. Nobody sat down and said, I'm going to write this because more people need to cheat on their boyfriends. But that stuff just occurs. And when you're in the middle of, granted, if you're dumb enough to tap your foot to the Macarena, once you're tapping your foot to the Macarena, that goes by, and you almost don't even realize it. So I cannot, and it's so tough because we need to come together on some of this stuff, and we have to just sort of. I'm not looking to hang up anybody's head on the wall in my den. I'm not saying that whoever was wrong about this before has to step down or anything. I mean, just for the good of the damn country, can we just sort of admit that where we're going is wrong, and for God's sakes, just try anything else,
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, until we realize that the culture has been drastically changed, and in order to have a conversation about damn near anything, involving, politics or principles, we need to get some of that culture back. And again, it's the most disheartening thing is to see all of these people that, that get it, that culture is the issue, and yet they don't get it. It's lip service. It's, we have to change the culture, and then you watch their actions, you watch their tweets, you watch their articles on their little websites, and none of it has any impact whatsoever on any culture outside of their little sphere of influence, which they already had.
And there's a lot of people who think changing the culture means shaming the culture we already have on Twitter and Facebook. What the hell good does that do? I tweeted to Piers Morgan 8 or 10 days ago, and I said, I am truly ashamed that people on my side are giving you the attention you so desperately crave. And that's as far as I'm concerned, that's the alpha and omega about Piers Morgan. He's an attention whore. These good-natured grandmas on Facebook and Twitter, they think that if all they do is go tisk Piers Morgan, he's going to wake up one day and go, you know what? I'm an a-hole, and I'm going to change.
Right.
He's not going to change. He gets off on it, and unfortunately,
that's the thing with Piers Morgan. He's at the bottom of the ratings within CNN.
Yeah.
And CNN is at the bottom of the ratings within cable networks besides MSNBC. But
the problem is eventually going to solve itself. But if you really want to do something, if you're really angry about Piers Morgan, you've got to support people on our side who can do it better than Piers Morgan.
Right. And the thing is, there's more people listening to you on this show right now than are going to be watching MSNBC tonight. So
more than 6.
That's right. I mean, it's not really a claim to fame, but anyway.
But Fox News doesn't get it. Fox News doesn't get it. They'll bounce to commercial or something. They'll bounce to commercial with like Maroon 5. And Adam Levine is just the most bigoted, loudmouthed leftist jerk, or Green Day or Springsteen or name a band, and they don't get it. And they only have people on their morning show they only have independents on their morning show to perform if they've written a song about soldiers or something like that. And I'm not saying, don't get me wrong, I support our troops as everybody does, and I also support the mission, which doesn't get said enough. But we've got to have better product out there that can change the minds of that 70% in the middle that isn't. You've got 15% that's hard right and involved, 15% that's hard left and involved, and then you have that 70% in the middle, and they're really the ones who swing elections. And we have to understand that as desperate as we are, we can't sort of show our desperation. It's already been proven that we lose the ability to win elections, which is what essentially what this is all about when you come down to it, and the culture. If we do that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and the thing is too, watching those who profess to get it and then obviously don't, that's maddening enough in and of itself. But then when someone like you comes out with great music, great lyrics, a great message that it's not in your face, it's subtle enough where people will get the message, they'll get what you're trying to say, but it's not enough to be in their face and off-putting if they're not immediately receptive to it. Someone like you drops in their lap these people who are saying, we got to change the culture. We got to do something to influence the culture. We've been letting the left take over the culture and Hollywood and media and music and the arts. And, we've got to suit up and get on the field and start taking that back because right now they're winning the game because we're not out there,
Right.
And then someone like you drops in their lap and they just brush it aside. And they just Like, oh, well, this isn't what I'm looking for because I don't know this person already.
Because you can't explain it to somebody who isn't a music geek in 5 seconds or less. And here's another great usage of the solution is the problem. This is why a lot of the in-your-face stuff works, because say I had a music video out on YouTube or something. If it didn't in the first 5 or 6 seconds have a flag or an eagle or one of these things, then when you share it on Twitter, the majority of the people out there, the conservatives, the grandmas and the vets and all these people are not gonna understand why you're putting it out there, and that's a symptom also of what has come before. They're used to seeing stuff that's political on its face, and so first of all, you don't have enough characters in a tweet to explain what I do, and you may not have their attention long enough for them to understand what's going on. And so that's why I look to these pundits. Like Breitbart always used to say, culture is upstream of politics. And I believe that to my core, man. But like I said, for 4 or 5 months before he died, he did not practice what he preached. He just simply, and the only way you could get to him is if you called him a meth head who liked to have sex with men. And I'm putting it kindly, of course, because I don't know how gross I can get on your to your audience. But if you didn't call him names, essentially in a tweet, you weren't going to get his attention. And even if you did, it would be for the wrong reasons. And you look at the Breitbart sites. I got to tell you, Lisa Mae Norton from Big Dog Music Mafia wrote a great piece about me and about Solution in October, and she's a contributing writer for Big Hollywood. And you look at Big Hollywood, and you look at what they have on there, and it's just every damn article is somebody criticizing a liberal person in Hollywood or a liberal musician or whatever, what have you. She wrote this great piece, and I linked to it on my Twitter, and I made mention of, I wish I could have reached Andrew before he died, okay? But unfortunately, he was too busy retweeting all these people who hated him. And the editor of Big Hollywood, somehow he sees this tweet. He doesn't follow me. I don't know how he saw it. Maybe somebody tipped him off. I don't know. But that tweet was enough to make him go apocalyptic on me the next day. And he started calling me names, and he started accusing me of pissing on Andrew's grave. And then he very, in a very vulgar manner, told me that he was going to shut me up once and for all. And he removed the article from Big Hollywood. So now, after all the Jerry Springer BS that we willingly subject ourselves to in the conservative new media movement every day, now you have conservatives fighting with conservatives, and conservatives doing destructive things to other conservatives. And it's like, you really expected to win in November when this was your focus? The Breitbart empire attacking a conservative who happens to be a musician? You have got to be kidding me.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I tell you what, we've got to take a break for the top of the hour.
Sure.
But I kind of want to pick up right there on the other side, because this is one of the contentions that I've made on this show for a long time, and on the trenches as well. Mm-hmm. That what we're really dealing with, to be quite honest, is not so much conservatives attacking other conservatives. If you look behind the motives, if you look at the actual principles that some of these people espouse, they're not our founding principles. And when someone like you comes along that is espousing our founding principles, that's more the reason why they're attacking you, because they don't really line up. as far as principles go. Anyway, and we've got, numerous examples of that I'm not going to get into on the show. But in the meantime, since we've been talking about all this sort of depressing and the depressing nature of the culture war that we're facing, let's get into a little bit of uplifting music from Mark's CD, The Solution is the Problem, and we'll throw that in here, and you guys can listen to it. And it's not the whole song; it's just a little snippet, just to give you a taste. And I guarantee, if you listen to the music, you will want to buy the album because it's just that damn good. You'll listen to the Sons of Liberty show here on Conservative Broadcast Media, talking with musician Mark Scudder, and you can find him at markscudder.com. SCUDDER is how you spell the last name. Mark is Mark, M-A-R-K. markscudder.com. Go to the store there. You can find The Solution is the Problem. And if you go to markscudder.com/live on Thursday nights from 8 to 11 p.m. Eastern, you can participate in the recording of the new album, The Antisocial Network. So here's a little bit of music from Mark Scudder. We'll be back on the other side.
This is a song called Free from The Solution is the Problem. Buy it now at markscudder.com.
Nothing positive to what you've done now. Maybe that's why I cling to God and my gun. Masses bend to your will, they sing your torch song. But strength enough the storm, don't make it less strong. So who's victim now? So tied up in your selfishness that you can't even see. What you think you are, that's what you've made me. Why can't we be free? All the hatred you bring me, can't we be free to be who we want to be? Can't we be free? The moments you have spent destroying, like a river of disease surrounding
The Sons of Liberty show isn't here right now. Leave a message.
there's a natural tendency of human beings, in addition to wanting to do things for themselves, they feel a great responsibility and wanting to be part of a community. And so I think the debate for the new generations, instead of capitalism or socialism, is we're going to have both, and then which proportion of each should we have in order to make this all work? It's a much more sensible debate. This is a very, very important, this is a new innovation from Obama, and I think it's a great thing for the Democratic Party.
I'm Jody Miller. Let's get started. Barack Obama has been re-inaugurated as the President of the United States. But the inauguration wasn't really necessary. Obama had already made himself president again by executive order. Speaking of executive orders, last week President Obama initiated 23 executive actions addressing gun-related violence. And this week he's going to declare that the colonies pay more taxes on their tea. Mitt Romney's comment about Jeeps being built in China was called the lie of the year by PolitiFact.com. But it turns out Romney was right. So it looks like PolitiFact being unbiased was actually the lie of the year. More details are coming out in the case of Notre Dame football star Manti Te'o and his fake girlfriend. And now Democrats are demanding that people be able to marry their fake girlfriends. The movie Zero Dark 30 has been nominated for an Academy Award for Best Picture. The film was chosen by Hollywood because it portrays the one actual success of Obama's first term. In other Academy news, the movie Lincoln garnered 12 Oscar nominations. Shh, don't tell anyone in Hollywood that Abe Lincoln was a Republican. First Lady Michelle Obama just celebrated her 49th birthday. No word on what the president got her, but I think we can safely rule out a gun. And finally, Lance Armstrong just announced that he'll be appearing on Maury this week to discuss how he lied on Oprah. Thanks for watching News Busted, everybody. I'm Jody Miller. Be sure to subscribe to our videos on YouTube. We'll catch you next time. expected. I'm Jody Miller. Let's get started. America's unemployment rate went up to 7.8% last month, which could only mean one thing: the election's over. A New Hampshire lawmaker says her state needs to pass a law to keep conservatives from moving there. But they already have such laws. They're called high tax rates. New York State has reportedly hidden a report showing that gas fracking is safe. Apparently, they had to hide it because they all really, really wanted to meet Matt Damon. Police officers were told to leave a Denny's restaurant in St. Louis because their guns were allegedly making other customers uncomfortable. Ironically, if the police had refused to leave, the restaurant would have had to call the cops. Newly released photos of President Obama's top advisors don't include any women. Seems the president's binders full of women are all empty. An American Airlines pilot in Minneapolis was arrested for failing a breathalyzer just before takeoff. And the worst part? His mom had to fly his plane home. Companies are coming out with new marijuana candies. And you thought your kids don't apply themselves in school now. And finally, it's official, Kim Kardashian is eating for two. Well, three, if you count her butt. Thanks for watching News Busted, everybody. I'm Jody Miller. We're on hiatus next week, but we'll be back Tuesday, January 22nd with all new episodes. Make sure to tell your friends about us, and we'll catch you next time.
Now back to the Sons of Liberty show on the CB Media Network. We refuse to lower our standards, so up yours.
Okay, bend over.
God, give me a pause! God, give me a pause! God, give me a pause!
All right, and we're back here on the Sons of Liberty show, right here on Conservative Broadcast Media. Thanks for sticking around and listening in tonight. Some great music there during the breaks from Mark Scudder, who also happens to be my guest tonight on the show, and I greatly appreciate him joining us on the show to talk about The Solution is the Problem, which is available at markscudder.com on the store section there, also iTunes, Amazon, various other places around the web, but the coolest version is on Mark Scudder's website. And also on the website, you can go to markscudder.com/live on Thursday nights, 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Time, and actually collaborate on the writing of the new album, The Antisocial Network. And we haven't really talked about that much so far, Mark. I wanted to kind of get into that. We've touched on Twitter and the ridiculousness that goes on there on a daily basis, and so the Antisocial Network, I like it. It's kind of a play off of the whole Facebook movie deal, the social network. Yeah. But Twitter and Facebook, in certain regards, have become pretty antisocial, especially when you're dealing with quote-unquote conservatives attacking other conservatives, and we talked about that before the break. And I wanted to get into that a little bit, and then kind of segue into the new album from there. But we have these people that have taken over Breitbart, picked up on Andrew's legacy there, and are, for all intents and purposes, running his legacy into the ground. And I can say that, and anybody that doubts that, go to thetrenches.us, go to foobar.thetrenches.us. We've posted all kinds of stuff there, proving the kind of scumbags, liars, former question mark leftists that inhabit the Breitbart sphere of influence now, and that somehow the people that have continued on Andrew's legacy there are, they either make excuses for the scumbags that work there, or just ignore the scumbaggery. And it's pretty sad that, you know, Andrew, the last few months of his Twitter life was retweeting everybody that, you know, that was a scumbag, to point them out and say, ooh, look at this scumbag here, and now Breitbart.com employs a bunch of them.
Yeah. It's funny. He never seemed to retweet the scumbags he employed. But you know, it's and like I was saying to you during the break, it's tough for me to accuse anybody in the conservative movement of just being out to make money, because we've been telling you for the last hour or so to go buy my album. And I see how somebody could interpret that as me being hypocritical. But if you look at it deeper, I don't write songs about flags or eagles or soldiers or the sort of things that are the conservative niche market. And so, should we turn this country around, it's not like I won't have a gig anymore, you know.
Right.
So I think there are people in the movement who I think have a financial self-interest in keeping the other side in power, because conservatives as a whole have responded with follows and likes and book sales and DVD sales to all these people whose business is criticism. and you know, you got to wonder, you know, it's like I thought to myself the other day, you know, if we had Facebook or if we had social media in like 1939, you know, would the Jews have just posted funny photoshops of Adolf Hitler on Geistbuch? You know, what we're doing doesn't make any sense to me. You know, we're not doing anything but complain. It's like Obama doesn't open his laptop every day and go, boy, I feel really bad about all these people who are, you know, posting all these funny photoshops about me. I think I'll be more conservative. That is never going to happen.
Right.
This guy is who he is. We know who he is. I don't want to hear about the birth certificate. I don't want to hear about the college records. You know enough about what you know, like anybody who has a daughter knows that you don't have to look too far into a guy to know that he's the wrong guy to date your daughter, okay? And
right.
But, you know, if you'd like a tortured metaphor from this conservative artist, America is our daughter, and Obama is trying to take advantage of her. So, I mean, you don't have to keep going on about the birth certificate or the Kenya thing or the college records or the transcripts or whatever. It doesn't matter. We all know that this guy is not good for us. What are we gonna do now? You know, and I thought I couldn't be on Twitter today. I had to just automate some tweets reminding people that I have this session going on Thursday. You know, I couldn't be on it because it's everybody yelling at the TV about Hillary, quote unquote, lying about Benghazi, and I'm sure she was lying about Benghazi. But since when has screaming on Twitter about it made anybody who we scream at do anything different than what they're doing? Companies are one thing. You know, we saw companies like Netflix and ProFlowers dump Rush Limbaugh when he was talking about what a slut Sandra Fluck was, and you know, you go to those people and there is some power if enough people say, I am no longer going to purchase products or services from you, you know, because people who are in it, you know, who have a corporation to take care of, are going to, you know, that's going to come up in a board meeting somewhere. But if Hillary or Piers Morgan or Obama or any of these people, people have to understand that they get off on pissing off conservatives. I mean, they look at it and they laugh at us. and this is all we've got, and it's not bad enough. We also have this conservative infighting, and I don't think I'm deep enough into it to know if the people who are running the Breitbart empire, or Michelle Malkin, or Dana Lash, if any of these people are Democrats in disguise or liberals in disguise, it doesn't make any sense to me. Why? I mean, unless their purpose is to come in and get us so embroiled in infighting that their secret Democrat tendencies come out and they're able to win the day for the Democrats. You have to remember, I was really getting into politics when, like in 2000 and 2001, when you just called everybody to the right of Bill Clinton a neocon. So that word doesn't have as much weight with me as with some people. And, of course, using the word bullying to describe what's going on, it kind of makes me go, because, bullying is one of these liberal concepts. But don't let anybody bully you. Run and tell an adult. Be safe, And I don't want to get in. I don't want to get into the place that it feels like I'm going. If I say, so and so from the Breitbart empire is bullying me on Twitter, blah blah blah. I don't want to get into that. But what I'm seeing is that Twitter is the high school after high school. There are popular people and there are smart people, and the popular people pick on the smart people or the talented people. And I think one of these popular people told me 4 months before the solution of the problem was done that it sounded like Nickelback, and he'd never heard any of it. And I'm thinking, okay, well, that must be the generic insult, or what people think when they hear music that's heavier than Adele. That's all they've had experience with. But also I'm thinking, oh, what, you mean my songs are going to be overplayed on radio and I'm going to make $100 million this year? Thanks, Yeah. But it really is. Yeah,
it's like the equivalent of, my music sounds like Nickelback, but you haven't listened to any of it. And okay, what's next? You're going to call me Four Eyes? Let's just go straight to third grade, while we're at it.
Yeah, so what you're saying is, if a radio station gets my CD and your CD, they're going to play mine and throw yours in the garbage? Okay, I can live with that.
Yeah.
But it's just, there's so much, when I was recording Solution, I was thinking a lot about the Internet and what I was doing on it and how nobody I knew had ever tried anything like this. And I got thinking about the Internet, and I knew some of its origins. And you think about the Internet and YouTube and all these free services and whatnot. This is the largest operating example of a pure democracy the world has ever seen. People like to call America a democracy. It's not. It's a representative republic. Think of, you would lose your senator if it was a democracy. Okay, we have representatives. We send them to Washington. Or I guess you'd lose your representative, I should say, your congressman. But the Internet, everybody's equal. Everybody has a voice, and we're going to make it easy for you to publish whatever you have, whether it's Blogger or YouTube or you remember mp3.com back in the day when anybody could set up a page, or MySpace or anything like that. And the sad reality of it is that we are using these tools without being cognizant that we're operating sort of in a left-wing paradigm to begin with. We're using community tools, and we have no community organization because we found out years ago that Barack Obama was a community organizer, and suddenly anybody who tries to organize a community is a bad guy. And I understand there are individualist principles in what we do, but better a little organization than the mob rule we have right now, because the mob rule brings out the worst in people. It makes the lowest common denominator stuff popular. Like a friend of mine years ago, I was promoting some album I was doing, and just out of stark ignorance, not knowing any better, he said, why don't you make a video related to the album and put it on YouTube? And I looked at him and I go, if I was 16 years old and I was playing guitar on the roof of my parents' garage and I fell off and broke both my legs, and the cameraman went over for a close-up while he's laughing hysterically while I'm crying like a little girl, and I put that on YouTube, maybe that would get 15 million views. But me just playing a song, that may take 3 or 4 minutes for you to understand what I'm doing, it's not lowest common denominator enough. So we're living in this world where we log on to this pure democracy every day, and we use it without understanding what it is or why it isn't working for us. And we have to stop and look at what it is and accept what it is and its limitations and the fact that it is a pure democracy. And we need to decide if we're going to fight the battle for the republic using a democracy paradigm and decide, have some real conversations about if it's possible to win back the republic while we're fighting on a democracy. You know what I mean? While we're fighting on the internet. I don't know if it's possible. It's mob rule. It's the 50% plus one person. It's lowest common denominator. There are still people who think if you put something on the internet and it's good, people will know about it. And I am here to tell you that is the biggest load of BS. Cream does not rise to the top in a democracy. That's a meritocracy. We can talk about having one of those some other time. I don't think we have time for that. But you have to understand what a democracy is. Mob rule, Occupy Wall Street, raping young women and playing a lot of drums, It's something people have got to wrap their head around this, because if they don't, we're doomed, And I'm sick of playing it. So anyway, that's what I'm thinking about with the antisocial network is that we've never been so connected, and yet for some reason we've never been so far apart. We attack people and we beat them half to death if they agree with us 98% of the time. We find that 2% and we hate on that person. Okay? And just, oh my God, it just drives me nuts. So I'm writing. This is sort of almost a relationship album with some technical language, and then there will be backstories about, this is what inspired me to write this, or this is what inspires me to write that. But, everything is relationships now. We have all this technology, we have all these MacBooks and Core i7s and quad-core processors and gigabytes of memory, and all we're doing is playing out the same social paradigms that made us all sick in high school, but now as grown men and women on this large technological network, which theoretically we could do a lot of cool stuff with, but we're using it just to pretend like we're still in high school and still with those thought patterns. So for somebody like me who isn't good at making friends, who's socially awkward, who has panic disorder, anxiety disorder, and who is good at making music, I'm almost an idiot savant, like one of those people they used to have on the Today Show. He's 6 years old, he can't talk, but he can play he can play Franz Liszt like nothing. Maybe I'm one of those people. But why hasn't humanity evolved at all to the point where I still have to be Johnny Football to get my music out to the masses? It just doesn't make any sense to me. So everything is. So I sort of feel like I'm writing a record where, I feel like this is stuff I would have been talking about in high school, but the rest of the world has stooped down to this level to meet me, and it might work. If everything's about relationships, then I'm going to write about relationships and put a little social media spin on them, because that's what I'm going through. It's not what I want to be going through. I wish we could be solving great problems of humanity, like how to make liberalism extinct, But here we are trading punches with the Breitbarts. It's funny. Just real quick, in the middle of one of these internet fights that happened in maybe October, Okay, I took a well-deserved swipe at Dana Lash, who responded to me something to the effect of, "Get out of my face. We have an election to win." I'm like, "Oh yeah? Then why are we in the middle of this massive Tuesday morning conservative infighting battle royal?" She says to me, "We have an election to win." And then when I woke up on November 7th and Obama was going to be president for another 4 years, I thought of that thing that Miss Lash had said, and that's when I really started thinking that, okay, we are not doing the right things. What part of fighting with conservatives on the internet is winning the November election?
Right.
So.
Exactly. What philosophy are you advancing? What principles are you advancing? And and to me, that's the core of it. I mean, you're approaching it from the musical side, and like I said, I've been in a couple of bands. I was mostly a vocalist because I don't have the musical talent to pick up an instrument and actually make it.
Like I said last week, I'm going to need you before this is over, I think.
Well, the thing, I mean, I sing and I write lyrics, and that's about the extent of it. I understand musical theory, but getting the music that's in my head out to where other people can hear it is
right.
is virtually impossible for me. Because I haven't really taken the time to pick up an instrument and learn it and get the music out. But so you're coming at it from that perspective, and I understand where you're coming from and the creative process, which is why I appreciate it and wanted to have you on the show. And so I'm coming at it from and that's the thing. I think the antisocial network as it stands now, you're exactly right with what you were talking about with with all these networks and what we're doing on the internet, and it's basically it's an extension of high school, like that congressman or senator from Alaska a few years ago said the internet is a series of tubes, and I thought about it, looking at the cliquish nature of Twitter and Facebook and and these blog sites and everything else where they're divided into these little cliques and warring amongst themselves like disparate factions in revolutionary France. It's like, well, yeah, okay, if the internet is a series of tubes, then these tubes empty out into jars. And the people that end up in these different jars are banging on the sides and yelling at the people in the next jar over. That's I mean, but
if anything, the internet is a series of high school hallways.
Yeah, exactly. It's
a lyrical moment of the night.
It extends the cliquishness and reinforces the walls of those cliques. Behind megabytes, and so it's really sad to see that this extension is out there and people just fall into line. They fall into these categories and these cliques and can't break out of them or can't sort of step outside of themselves and see the big picture of, well, there's this clique over here and this clique over there, and, for the most part, we agree on things, and, there's a couple of things here and there that we don't agree on, and so we have to hammer those, flog those differences, like a drum at an Occupy rally. And, so
yep.
But the thing is, though, when you step outside of it and you see that, it's not so much about groups. This is what conservatism is all about. This is what founding principles are all about. It's individualism, right? You're approaching it from your individual perspective, where you have the talent and the drive and the initiative to do what you're doing and do it so well. I mean, again, folks, markscudder.com/store and pick up the album, The Solution is the Problem. It's phenomenal. The music is great. The lyrics are great. And Mark puts this all together. And, so that's...
And it doesn't sound, we should say, it doesn't sound like it was made in a home basement studio. I really try my best to make it sound like it was done in a like anything else you'd buy or hear on the radio.
Right. Well, now, as a connoisseur of music, I would say it also doesn't sound like, overproduced Terry Tate Metallica Black Album either. So,
yeah.
So I don't like low quality production, but that overproduction to me as a musical connoisseur is even worse. And it's a nice happy medium between the two. I think the quality is dead on.
Yeah.
From what I say.
I guess that's the advantage of working with it in sort of a raw, unmastered form for so long, is you start to like the way it sounds when it's just kind of organic and laid in.
Right.
And I know I had a lot of that. And even now, I'll listen to Solution, and then I'll go back and listen to one of the sessions when I was just recording guitar, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, that sounds better before. So I'm still also continually learning.
Well, and that's the thing. You're coming at things, changing the culture, doing what you do from the musical perspective. I'm coming at it from more of a philosophical perspective. I write a lot. I've written a lot of articles at the trenches. Most recently about progressivism and federalism, what they really are, and how we can combat progressivism by returning to founding principles. What those principles are. And that's the thing, the individual nature, the contributions that each of us as individuals can make with our specific talents. And this goes back to our founding as well, Declaration of Independence, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, endowed by our Creator, right? We all have talents that are granted to us by our Creator, and He tells us, I've given you this talent. You be a good steward of it. You use this talent, for the purpose that I gave it to you, or you're going to lose it or squander it, and so you have to use your individual talents. You have to find your niche and use that to influence culture, influence the thinking, influence the philosophy to get back to what this country was intended to be, and frankly, to get back to a society that is in harmony with human nature.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of talents, the one big advantage that I never expected about these live sessions is I'm a horrible procrastinator. I can get working on something and I'll work on it all day and all day and all day, and then if it's not convenient to do it, I'll put it off. And then I'll put it off and put it off and put it off. But more often than not with this stuff, when real life intervenes or interjects itself, interrupts you, you look back and it's been like a month since you've worked on it, and sort of having these tiny little goals that this Thursday night at about 7 o'clock when I'm setting up the cameras and turning on the lights and everything, that I got to be ready to go with something, and it's got to be good, because there's people are going to know if you're BSing them. So it's been sort of a godsend for me. And one thing happened right after when I finished Solution that I didn't think was going to happen. Was a couple of weeks went by and I missed it. I missed doing the little sessions, and I'm like, well, what am I going to do? And I had to go and dig through ideas and notebooks and see if I could put something else together. And that was an awesome feeling for me, is to think, well, I miss these people who hang out, all these people who I got to call friends when we hung out and did Solution, and quicker than I would have probably, I started announcing, okay, well, starting on this date, we're going to start doing this again. And I don't know yet what we're going to do. We're going to figure it out. And that was about 10, maybe 8 weeks ago, maybe, that we started again. And they're not, well, it's hard to call a demo finished, but there's a bunch of stuff that I still want to play with, but I've got almost an hour of music at this point that I'm happy with, that I'm proud of, that still needs work and some parts, and lyrics are always the thing that lag behind for me. So I'll probably be writing a lot tomorrow before my session, but trying to figure out something, some space that needs to be filled. But being able to set these, arbitrary dates for these sessions to say that, next Thursday, January whenever, February whenever, I'm going to be on at 8 o'clock, and, your brain sort of figures out what you have to do when you have a deadline,
Yeah, and that's the thing. You're setting these incremental goals, and this is the way I used to operate. When I was writing a lot more too, is you set a. You hear about different writers that are famous and New York Times bestseller lists and all this stuff. And their struggles for coming up with something, and I just set a deadline that I have to write 10 pages a day. And, and for some people that works, and, and for other people, it's kind of hit or miss. You say, okay, well, I got to write 10 pages today, and you get to the end of it, and you've written 10 pages of crap. Just because you have to get it done. And that's the cool thing with the live stream sessions is that you have the chat room there, you have that collaboration, as you're doing something, as you're working through an idea that's in your head, you have that instant feedback. And that's, that's a powerful thing, and it draws, like I said last Thursday in the chat room, it draws the audience in so they don't feel like an audience, they feel like participants. And, and that's a great thing all the way around because you can feed off of that energy, and then, and then the people in the chat room get the sense that, man, I'm not just, watching this happen. I'm helping this happen. I'm sort of helping to facilitate this.
And like I said to you on that session, I don't know how big this can be scaled. I don't know if we can have 500 people in the chat room or 5,000 or whatever, but hell, let's put that in the pile called problems I want the opportunity to solve,
Right.
Because I'm sure we'll figure something out. But I really think that, and this isn't about me. I think it's because I have an album to sell, albums, plural, that people are going to think that I'm just sort of selling what I have, and then I'm going to skip town and go to Aruba or something. But I am trying. Here's a liberal buzz phrase for you: be the change that you wish to see in the world. I don't want to be the only person doing this. I want to be one of 1,000 who are doing this. I want there to be as many online experiences like mine as there are now, blog talk radio shows, or people complaining on Twitter, or people posting dumbass Facebook photoshops. I want it to be a big thing, and I want somebody to be able to say, well, if you like Solution, there's this other album by this other person that you ought to check out,
right.
and that isn't happening yet. And sometimes when you're lying awake trying to sleep, thinking about all the woes of the world, you think to yourself, well, maybe I'm just crazy because nobody else is doing this. And so I can't speak to that. I think I am a little crazy, but I am also getting a lot of personal joy out of doing this, and the Solution wouldn't have gotten done if it weren't for the way I did it. And especially when I'm unsure about how a group of songs is going to go, like I am right now, I'm still working with demos and working out riffs and parts. It's a lot more like with Solution. It was 10 or 11 songs that I've been performing for years, and I was really, really proud of, and I could stand behind, and we were going to do whatever it took. Now with Antisocial Network, I'm not so sure. These songs are newer to me; they're less developed, and I've never done demos in front of people before. We were ready to go with demos and guide tracks when I started live streaming for solution. So this is also almost a new thing, but this is a thing I want to figure out. And so far, I'm actually impressed with the amount of work that we've gotten done. And it looks like, if for no other reason than to motivate me to keep making music and to keep the creative part of my brain engaged, this has totally been a win-win.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, it's, we touched briefly earlier on the differences between a democracy and a republic, and and you mentioned the meritocracy as well. And I think that's really the key to it, is that changing the culture is not Mark Scudder, the solution is the problem. Mark Scudder, the antisocial network. That's not going to change the culture, but it can keep the door open to where more people get out there. And changing the culture is going to depend on look at Hollywood, look at the media, look at the arts, the music industry as it has been, sitcoms on TV. All of these things have combined together to change the culture to where it is now. It's not just one person producing one thing. And the best thing about it is, once people start seeing what you're doing, and and they see, man, this has got a really good message to it. There's there's conservatism woven throughout this, but it's not in your face. It's subtle enough where it draws people in, and other people start doing that. Other people start realizing, this is the way you can really change the culture, to do it almost not subliminally, not subversively, but getting in there with subtlety, and more people start doing it. Good.
The example that I like to use is I'll discover a musician or a band I don't know about, and the music or the production or the lyrics or whatever, the musicality of it, the playing ability will resonate with me. And I'll be like, okay, all right, I like this. I'm getting hooked. I'm falling in love with this. And you listen to it more and you start to fall in love with it. And then one day you look them up on Wikipedia. Just kind of see, because people I like to know where people came from or what their influences were or whatnot. And invariably, when this happens, I find a section on their Wikipedia page that says, so-and-so is has given large amounts of money to the Democrat Party or PETA or the Sierra Club or thinks that George Bush blew up the World Trade Center. And all of a sudden, you have this conflict. And you have to decide, am I going to dump what I like about this person because of what I don't like about them? And I'll tell you, more often than not, I can't, because once you fall in love with a piece of music, it's very hard to say, okay, well, I'm going to artificially remove that piece of music from my life because I don't believe what this person believes. And I think, if you're not careful, I try to be very careful, but if you're not careful, that music, that message can have over time, a subtle impact on your life. And I got to thinking a while back is I wanted the goal to be someone to hear my stuff and fall in love with it, and then find information about me that kind of makes them the same conflicted but 180 degrees turned around, because that's the sort of stuff that makes people think, and to think about, okay, well, can I, and obviously there are going to be people who go, wow, this is really good, and he's a conservative, and to them, sort of to feel that thing happening to them where they don't understand how those two things could exist in one person.
Right.
So that's one of the goals. That's a subtle way. But I think for many years, people like us who are fans of music have had to have this sort of feeling in the back of their brain that that if this musician knew I bought his CD, he'd ask for it back, and we had to deal with that. And I think we've become intellectually better people and able to process more intellectually difficult things and really know what our values are. And wouldn't that be a great thing to infringe on, or to impose, I should say, on a leftist?
Exactly. Well, and the other thing is too, there's another side of that where, because we're coming at it as conservatives, a lot of times you find yourself settling. Well, now, as a connoisseur of music, I would say it also doesn't sound like, overproduced Terry Date Metallica Black Album either. So,
yeah.
So I don't like low quality production, but that overproduction to me as a musical connoisseur is even worse. And it's a nice happy medium between the two. I think the quality is dead on for what I take.
I guess that's the advantage of working with it in sort of a raw, unmastered form for so long, is you start to like the way it sounds when it's just kind of organic and laid in.
Right.
And I know I had a lot of that. And even now, I'll listen to Solution, and then I'll go back and listen to one of the sessions where I was just recording guitar, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, that sounds better before. So I'm still also continually learning.
Well, and that's the thing. You're coming at things, changing the culture, doing what you do from a musical perspective. I'm coming at it from more of a philosophical perspective. I write a lot, written a lot of articles at the trenches, most recently about progressivism and federalism, what they really are, and how we can combat progressivism. And and I've said before on Twitter, and
for many years, people like us who are fans of music have had to have this sort of feeling in the back of their brain that if this musician knew I bought his CD, he'd ask for it back, and we had to deal with that. And I think we've become intellectually better people and able to process more intellectually difficult things and really know what our values are. And wouldn't that be a great thing to infringe on, or to impose, I should say, on a leftist?
Exactly. Well, and the other thing is, there's another side of that where, because we're coming at it as conservatives, a lot of times you find yourself settling for a particular band because you know that they're conservative first, and you think about it and you're like, well, I have to support this person because they're a conservative artist, but their music,
and it works in reverse.
It works in reverse too. I wouldn't be immediately drawn to this music in and of itself,
right?
But this is what I should do because I'm a conservative and they are too, and that's how a lot of these really crappy musicians get a following. And I won't mention any names, but we've talked about them before. But
many of them. But it works in reverse too. I feel like I'm settling because I need good music in my life. We were talking about the relaxing music. I mean, earlier on, John Serry is a conservative. That makes me sleep better at night. I don't know what Chuck Wilde is, but a lot of these people who make the ambient music, Stars of the Lid and Brian Eno and all these, especially when you get into New Age stuff or space music or ambient music, these people aren't at Tea Party rallies. These people aren't at these people aren't pulling the lever for Romney or whatever. And it's really tough because I get enough of the political talking head stuff, and I know who I am, and I don't need Glenn Beck or Michelle Malkin or name your pundit to tell me who I am or to validate my conservatism. And so when it comes to music, when I'm searching for things that really, surround me with wonderful sounds and give me goosebumps and sort of give you those sort of psychosomatic reactions. That is such a wonderful part of loving and listening to music. That you have to settle that these people hate us for who we are. So there's a lot of settling going on.
Yeah, and the bottom line is we shouldn't have to do that. You're doing your part to change that, and hopefully more people will jump into it as well. And the thing is, with meritocracy, that's what it's all about, right? First principles, conservatism, competition. The more people that get into actually trying to change the culture and turn things around, put conservative principles on the playing field where they've been absent for so long. The more people that do that, the better it will be, because all of the other conservative artists will say, "Oh man, I've got to raise the bar a little bit. There's actually competition here now," and that can only be a good thing for what we're trying to do. And I know we're about out of time here, and you've got your wife waiting patiently there for you. I appreciate that. Appreciate you coming on the show. And and I've said before on Twitter, and I'll repeat it here, over the phone and to the audience. This guy, Mark Scudder, whether he knows it or not, is writing the soundtrack for a cultural revolution. I think this is really where we need to go as far as influencing the culture from the musical perspective. And, and anybody else out there with, whether it's art or filmmaking, I've had filmmakers on the show before as well, people that are writing fiction that has sort of conservative themes to it. I've had authors on the show before. This is what we need to do, not just have people out there that are struggling along, trying to do this, trying to get their name out there, trying to get the recognition that they deserve for what they're trying to do to influence the culture. But we need to have people that have venues, such as they are. I mean, we're here on Spreaker, a couple hundred listeners live, and who knows how many in the podcast. But every little bit that we can do to find these people that share our values and are trying to promote them through art, whatever venue that takes on. We need to find these artists and get them out there. Give them a slightly bigger voice than they have. And the more people that do that, the more blog talk radio hosts, speaker hosts, people on Twitter even, find these people and promote them. This is how we do it. This is how we change the culture. We have to get this music. We have to get this art. We have to get these films into as many hands and minds as possible to really start making a difference.
Yeah, and I've been very vocal about like Colleen Gray and Joe Merrick and a bunch of people over at Big Dog Music Mafia who are really good. There are some people. A lot of it goes, if it doesn't go patriotic, it goes country, which is personally a genre I can't stand. I know a lot of people are into it, and I'm not saying that they shouldn't be. But I've been thinking, that democracy, plus dumb people is anarchy, and a republic plus an educated citizenry has just about the right amount of meritocracy in it. And I think that if we really get the message out that there is stuff other than what the mainstream new media conservatives are peddling to their own gain, I think the free market takes care of the rest. And I've always said I have a good product. It's better than almost anything out there, I think. I have not received one negative review from Solution. The only problem has been getting people to review it. But every review has been just overwhelmingly positive. And I got to tell you, conservatives on new media, it is disheartening to have a really, really good product and sort of have this cultural revolution, as you said, which is the only boat I want to be on. It's not like I can go be a Democrat, you know. To have this cultural revolution in new media to sort of say, yeah, more songs about soldiers and flags, monkey boy, you know, then we'll talk. But you know, it's very disheartening to have a good product and not be able to reach anybody. So
right.
You know, I am sort of the archetypal small businessman. So I hope people will check me out, and I hope you keep talking about me, and maybe we can change us some culture.
Absolutely. You know, and like I said on Twitter earlier today, and those of you that are following me there, it's, you know, Bradley S. Reese, 2 E's in the middle, none on the end on Reese, and you can find me there. I put out a link to the solution is the problem on iTunes earlier today, and I said, look, you know, it's $9.99. It's worth 3 times that easily. You know, if you want some good, well-produced, well-thought-out, you know, technically, you know, the musical technicality, the composure is top-notch. And you know, and if that's really what you're looking for, if you're looking for good music that's uplifting, that has a good message to it, and on top of all of that, as if that wasn't enough, the money from it is also going to help a good conservative put out even more culture-changing music. You know, that's a win-win-win all the way around for everybody. And you know, again, I mean, it's worth 3 times that, whether you go to iTunes or markscudder.com, you know, whatever you need to do, and beyond that, not just order it and download it and listen to it, but for God's sakes, tell people about it.
Yep, and I suppose I wouldn't want to miss telling people after that wonderful review that if you buy it from my store, you can pay more if you'd like.
There you go.
It's
this
thing that the quote unquote music 2.0 people who are all leftists, you know, because what they want you to do is they want you to set the album price at 0, and then people can pay whatever they think it's worth. Let me tell you what it's worth. It was 9 months of my life, and my wife going, do you really have to finish Alara? You know, do you really have to finish those high vocals? Because you suck at singing that. You know, so this is trust me, it's worth something. So it starts at $9.99, but if you wanna give me more, or the deluxe edition starts at $14.99. A lot of people will give me 20, just 20 even, which I think is fantastic. But yeah, I mean, anything anyone can do to support it. I want to be one voice in a crowd of, you know, 1,000. I want there to be radio stations that can play, you know, internet and terrestrial and satellite radio stations that can play what I do. Maybe not so much the flag waving, I praise Jesus better than you sort of stuff. I wish there was a channel for what I was doing where I didn't have to be the exception to the rule, you know. I want good music out there. I mean, it's a music industry problem. It's not just a conservative problem. There's so much crap out there because people don't know what they're missing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a lot of it. We've got an echo chamber that is hell-bent on trying to promote, you know, the same old that you know, that hasn't really done anything but rally the crowd that was already receptive to begin with. And and that's just, you know, to me, that's just running in circles. You know, and the great thing is, like I said, it's worth every penny of that and more. And, you know, and just think, by the time you get The Solution is the Problem and you listen to it enough to where you're craving something new, the Antisocial Network will be out, and you'll have some new Mark Scudder music. And in the meantime, again, you can go to markscudder.com/live Thursday nights, 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern, and check out the live sessions. You know, you're collaborating right there and seeing it all come together. It's a phenomenal process. And, you know, even if you're not a musical geek like myself that, you know, that's fascinated with the creative process, you know, you still get something out of it and come to a better understanding of the creative process and what it takes to, you know, to produce music in the way that Mark does.
People I don't know, people may be shocked at the way music is produced today. It's not produced very dissimilarly in the studios as I do here. I use more samplers because I don't have a band. But a lot of the software that I'm using is what the big studios use, and it really I don't know, I think it's fascinating. I'm sure not a lot of people do, but if you think you might be interested in it at all, these sessions are a really fun thing to do.
Yeah, and the other cool thing is too, you know, I should hasten to mention here, is that, you know, it's not going to take 3 hours out of your life to, you know, to pop open your laptop or you know, crank up the speakers on your computer and log on and watch the session and listen to it. You know, I was listening to it last week while I was cleaning my guns. So, you know, you could do other things and still participate. You're not.
And there's actually the livestream.com where the session is actually broadcast out of. They have their own app for iPhone and iPad, and I think they have it for Android phones too. So I mean, you won't be in the chat, but you can listen to it the way you'd listen to any other sort of radio broadcast. And I'm always talking about what I'm doing, and you can hear me playing, and it's stereo, and it sounds great. You're hearing just what I hear in my headphones. But you can dial me up on the Livestream app, put your phone in your pocket, and, you know, go do housework or go for a walk or go for a drive, and you're hearing it. And we should also add that the morning after any of these sessions, they are up on my website, so you can check out previous sessions on my website. And if you have to miss one, if Thursdays aren't good for you, you can catch it the next day at work or at home or on the weekend or whenever you have time. I mean, you can talk to me on Twitter, you can talk to me on Facebook, you can send me an email saying, you know, I love what you did here, or this made me think of that, and, you know, who knows, it may spark something that ends up making the song or the record better.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's part of the collaborative process. And again, I mean, that's, you know, audience participation while it's happening. That's, you know, where else are you going to get that? And, you know, and as far as the Antisocial Network goes right now, you're getting it for free. You're logging onto a website. You're using up a couple of megs of your monthly, you know, internet space. So
yeah, you're hearing all the parts right now. You just pay me at the end to put them together for you.
Right. So there you go.
Really, what's the cost of mixing? But yeah, you know, I wanna do the things that I think we should be doing in the conservative community, but also imagine, like, what I'm imagining is, I wish my favorite bands did this. You know, to see Devin Townsend do this on a regular basis, to see the guys in Rush, who I grew up loving, do something like this. You know, anybody like that. Oh my God, that would be the coolest thing ever. I mean, I would be all over that.
Absolutely.
So,
well, you know, and you just kind of circled back to the beginning of the show where we were talking about Justin Bieber in Canada, and, you know, you playing Devin Townsend and Rush right there. So hey, let me throw in another Canadian band, Fear Factory, one of my favorites. You know, despite some of the leftism in the lyrics, you know, Burton Bell was a bit of a leftist, sort of a libertarian leftist, but you know, with the anti-war stuff. But you know, but at the same time, the music is awesome. I've been a fan of Fear Factory for years, and
you know what I ought to do?
Canada, I would love to see, you know, a session of them doing this, and you know they never.
You know what I ought to? You know what I ought to do on this album? You know what I ought to do on this album is I should write your stereotypical anti-war folk song, except make it about conservatives on Twitter who fight with each other.
That would actually be pretty awesome. I think. I think you could pull it off
like that, where where it can live on its own as a song, you know. But this is a funny thing that just occurred to me. So maybe we'll be doing that one of these sessions.
There we go. All the more reason to tune in. Well, Mark, I appreciate you doing. Yeah, we did right here, right at the end of the show. We did some collaboration. So, and all of you in the audience were able to witness it live and in color, or well, it's Spreaker, so you know, not really in color, but anyway. Well, Mark, I appreciate you joining us on the show and giving us so much of your time tonight. Greatly appreciate it. I know you got a lot to do tomorrow, and you know, especially you know, this is Wednesday night as we're recording this. So you got your session tomorrow and things like that going on. But you know, I really appreciate the time you spent here, and you know, I just hope that the audience will take a few more moments of their time besides listening to the show and actually go out and, you know, listen to some of Mark's music, buy the CD, you know, and tell people about it. I mean, that's the main thing, getting the word out. You know, one CD sale helps, but, you know, you tell 5 friends and 2 of them go and buy it and listen to it, then they've got great music, and, you know, it helps Mark put out even more, so.
Yep, yeah, and yeah, absolutely, and the pleasure is all mine. I mean, you know, I have to give the sales pitch to, you know, 20 people a day who are gonna ignore it, you know. So it's nice to talk to somebody who's receptive to what I'm doing. That's awesome.
Yeah, and trying to help make the pitch as well, because like I said, folks, you know, I'm a music connoisseur. You know, I've been a huge fan of all kinds of different music for years and years, going back to when I was 6 years old, and my older brothers had a cassette tape of Bryan Adams' Reckless, another Canada reference. But
all Canadian musicians tonight.
But hey, you know, I mean, I've been a huge fan of music ever since then. You know, Bryan Adams. You know, I've kind of fallen off of that wagon in the intervening years because, hey, I was 6. But anyway, don't hold that against me.
All right.
But anyway, look, you know, I've been a connoisseur of music for years, and you know, Mark's stuff again, it's top notch, and you know, and it just helps things all the more that he's a conservative, you know, fighting for the same things that we're fighting for. It's that's awesome to have people like Mark on our side, and you know, I wouldn't want to be on any other side, to tell you the truth.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
All right, well, folks, that was Mark Scudder, and again, markscudder.com. You can check out the live stream Thursday nights, 8 to 11 p.m. Eastern Time. Check out the album, The Solution is the Problem. Check out the recordings for the Antisocial Network. Great tunes, a great guy, great sense of humor, which you'll find out if you go into the live stream sessions. The chat rooms are lively. So, yeah, check it out, and by all means, join us back here next week for another edition of the Sons of Liberty Show. I'm sure we'll be talking about more of the craziness going on Twitter and what we can do to change the culture and get back to our founding philosophy, which is what we're all about on the show here and on the conservative broadcast media as well. Tune into all the other shows on conservative broadcast media throughout the coming week, and I'll join you back here next Saturday. Until then, remember that the blessings of liberty are nowhere near as secure as they once were, but the price of liberty is eternal vigilance. Remain vigilant and remain safe throughout this coming week, knowing the battle is joined. You are not alone, and we are winning. Good night.
And as an added bonus, I'm going to round out the show tonight with a full song from Mark Scudder's CD, The Solution is the Problem. The song is called Occupied, and it's a great tune. Give you a little bit of a taste of what the album is like. And again, The Solution is the Problem is available at markscudder.com. Just hit the store link.
stuff, pay for their protest, sanction their ending, feed them and clothe them, and give them the freedom. They teach their children that we are the problem. The cycle repeats till we're all at the bottom. We pay the bill, we pay it all. We give them rope to hang the providers of it all. Fire with fire makes us as evil as the ones they admire. The other option, a Christ-like direction, just gets us murdered with no resurrection. Gathering masses attached like a cancer, held aloft by musician and actor. Our hope of redemption violently ending, because revolution is trendy and trending. You have created